Welcome to China Daily's Dialogues, Innovative China. Here is Professor Daokui from Tsinghua University. He is also a member of the CPPCC. Welcome.
My pleasure.
You have some proposals concerned with the commercial banks. Would you please explain your proposal?
Well, in today's China, there is a burning issue in our economy. That is, the commercial banks are huge.
Too big.
Today. And also they are super profitable on paper. Super profitable. How large are the commercial banks in China? Their assets is as large as 230% of our GDP as of last year. And the 16 commercial banks listed in our Shanghai Stock Exchange accounts for 26% of our Chinese total capitalization of stock markets. And also, they are super profitable. About one half of the state-owned enterprises' profits comes from the state-owned commercial banks. And meanwhile, they are being profitable at the taking advantage of real business. A lot of industrial manufacturing companies are complaining that their profits are low, whereas the commercial banks' profits are very high. And this is a problem. This is of course a good problem in comparison with profit-losing commercial banks in Europe, right? Yeah. Still, it's a problem. Yeah. There are two kinds of problems: the good problems and bad problems. We have, relatively speaking, a better problem than the European problem, but still problem. How to deal with this? My proposal is very simple. China has to experiment the asset securitization of commercial banks. That is, commercial banks, one way or the other, have to sell part of their good assets to our capital markets, for example, to bondholders. That way, the commercial bank can be recapitalized through the selling of assets. That way, the commercial banks can become smaller and more agile. Today, they are giants, they are dinosaurs in our Chinese economy. Right? So my proposal is, I think, is a key to revitalizing our economy.
As far as I know, 4 state-owned banks are already listed in China's A-share market. So, can I say that your proposal is that they sell another part of their good assets to the stock market?
Well, my proposal is for the commercial banks to sell their good assets to our debt market, the bond market, bond market, and in exchange, the commercial banks will get cash. Right? This cash will be put back into the capital pool of the commercial banks, so that their capital adequacy ratio will increase. Right? That way, the commercial banks will also become smaller in terms of their size of total assets. Right? They become more flexible, more agile in the marketplace.
As far as we know, banks do not have much motivation for innovation. What do you think will push banks to innovate?
Well, to be very frank, Chinese commercial banks are quite innovative. They are innovative perhaps not in the right way. They are innovative in doing wealth management products, in pushing out wealth management products every day. So instead of attracting deposits, nowadays they are selling their wealth management products to potential depositors. That is, they say, okay, we have a product which guarantees you to have 10% yield, right? In every year for 5 years. Yeah. And please, join us. Please give us your money, right? Yeah. Now, these wealth management assets are actually products which are based in the capital market, in the equity market, the bond market, right? So our commercial banks are innovative in this regard. Unfortunately, these activities may not be fully regulated, implying systematic risks, right? So that is wrong. What we wish the commercial banks to do, right, would be for them to be more innovative in their lending process, to lend more to small enterprises or even startup enterprises. That is the key.
As far as I know, one president of a commercial bank in China proposed that the central bank do something to release the risks for them if they lend to some new industries or to some small companies. What do you think?
Sure, I fully understand this proposal. That is to push the regulators, the central bank, as well as the China Banking Regulatory Commission, CBRC, to increase the tolerance level of risks when commercial banks are lending to small enterprises.
Yeah.
Well, that can be done. However, there's a limit to this practice, right? Because if the risk level is increased in our banking sector, in the long run, there will be problems. To me, this is not the right direction to explore. The right direction to explore is to do institutional reform, fundamental reforms to restructure the commercial bank's capital structure, right? To make commercial banks lighter, right? Lose weight, to become less fat, right? More lean, right? That's the key. That's the direction to go. To shed off some of the assets, recapitalize, increase capital adequacy ratio. That way, commercial banks themselves would become stronger. That way, commercial banks themselves can absorb more risks, right? Rather than asking regulators to loose up their regulation, commercial banks should do self-strengthening.
Nowadays, in the China stock market, the stocks of banks are not high valued. Do you think they are good choices for investors? Bank stocks.
Well, it's a fact that the equity shares of commercial banks in our Shanghai Stock Exchange are undervalued, which is true. The PE ratio, price earnings ratio, are very low, like 8 or 7 times, right? This is a fact.
Yeah.
But this fact appears because of good reasons, because the shareholders or investors are worried about the upcoming seasoned price offering, SPO, refinancing from commercial banks. In other words, they worry that there will be more and more supply of new shares from the commercial banks, right? So this is a very real concern. Now, why is that? Because commercial banks are attracting deposits every day. So to go with that, they have to increase their own capital. So far, the only game in town is for the commercial banks to issue new shares in the stock market, which in turn depresses the share value, right? So the right way to get around this, the right way to do reform is for commercial banks to sell some of their good assets, right? Therefore, they can obtain cash, and using the cash, they can recapitalize themselves without resorting to issuing new shares to our equity share market.
You explained why banks' share value are so undervalued, but you told the public that you predicted that the stock market this year will perform better. Would you please give us your reasons?
True. The fundamental reason for our stock markets being so low in prices, in price-earnings ratio, is because our shareholders are concerned about the overall quality of the companies in our stock market.
Yeah.
They worry that the companies are not using the capital they raised in stock market properly. And furthermore, they worry that even if the companies become profitable, the companies may not pay back dividends to our shareholders. So the fundamental reason for the low prices is that shareholders are not feeling that they are getting good value from the stock market. Now, as we speak, the regulators in China, the China Securities Regulatory Commission, is now working day and night, working very hard to strengthen, to beef up their regulation, to force corporations in the stock market to issue dividends, to force corporations to be more careful, to be much more careful in their investment decision. So with these reforms, I'm confident that the mood of our investors in the stock market will change, will be reversed. So this year, I'm rather optimistic about our equity market.
I guess you are mentioning the regulators' innovative activities in regulation, such as pushing the companies listed in the A-share market to give more dividends to the investors. However, some say that people's investment choice will be based on their expectation of the whole economy. My question is, in addition to the policy innovations by the regulators, do you think the China's economy will become better this year in 2012?
The big picture view, I think, for today's Chinese economy is that the economy is still very strong. The central government issued a 7.5% GDP growth as its target.
Yeah.
However, our historical experience tells us that in the end, the GDP will grow faster. So I still predict 8.5% to be our final GDP growth rate. And the the consumer price index, CPI, for this year, my prediction would be something around 3%. So price relatively low in comparison with our historical records, right?
Yeah.
So GDP is still growing strong. Prices are under control. And furthermore, the central government and local governments are now gradually come to the realization that reforms and the restructuring of the economy are more important than GDP growth per se. So the quality of growth will gradually be improved, including the profitability of a lot of manufacturing enterprises and enterprises in the stock market will improve. So that's my general view in this year. Uncertainties, yes, there are uncertainties. Problems, yes. Challenges, yes. But overall,
everything will become better.
At the end of the day, I think I would bet the overall picture of the macro economy in China is still relatively bright. I would rather dealing with problems in the Chinese economy than dealing with the problems in the US and Europe.